us today. As so many of you know, that indoor dining will begin this Friday at 25% capacity. What I want to go over with you today is both the executive order 183 and the executive directive, which is 20030, which will be available on the website for you to download. I'm sorry, I'm just going to shut this door, excuse me. Just hearing Shah's feedback in the other room. Most of what is in the health and safety standards are what we saw back on July 2nd, with a few additions. So those I'll highlight, but obviously it's very, very similar. So again, I am going to go through some particulars because we've already gotten some questions on ones that I believe really need to be highlighted. So obviously, I'm going to go through the Executive Order 183 first, which is the document that looks like this. And I know Shah will have a presentation, and that will be available again up on the website later. And please know that if you have specific questions, always call the office. We're in the office on Mondays and Wednesdays, but the phones get directed to home because our team does work at home the other days. So your calls will always be answered. So first thing is that you need to do, which is somewhat new in this new protocol, is establish a written worksite specific COVID plan, COVID prevention plan at every location, and perform a comprehensive risk evaluation of work areas, and then designate a person at every shift. So there should be somebody that is on every shift that is basically your safety person. So very similar to your Serve Safe manager mandates that we have. And this person should be responsible for having the plan, implementing the plan, and the logs, because they further down, which again I'll touch on, they're going to want to see like cleaning logs, your cleaning protocols. So it is very helpful for when the Department of Health, your local Department of Health comes in, that you have all these safety protocols written in place and can show them what your plan is. And there should be one person per shift designated for that. We are going to be working on having a one sheet for you that would be helpful for those of you that don't have something like that in place. Leslie and Sarita, who handle our Serve Safe, will be putting something together, and we'll make that available to you. Obviously, you know that you must limit the number of patients inside your location to 25%. And that is of your fire code occupancy, but that number does not include your staff. So that is only your guests. Now, for the wedding and banquet venues, that number is capped at 150 people. It is not capped for restaurants. And so there is a little bit of discrepancy there. In the previous executive order back in July, that was not the case. There was no cap for wedding and banquet venues, but in this case there is at 150. And it is 150 for restaurants. It's 150 of your entire restaurant. I'm sorry, it's 25% of your entire restaurant. You must ensure that your tables are 6 feet apart, which I know many of you that are doing outdoor dining understand a lot of that. There can be no more than 8 people at a table unless they come from the same household or family. So that is a little bit different. So you can have 10 people if they're from the same household. Not really sure how you prove that, but again, that is permitted. You may have bar seating, and I know that, and I see Diane Weiss from Licensed Beverages on as well. So Diane and I had kind of had that conversation. So you can have bar seating, but there can't be more than 4 people in the party. So you can have 4 people, and then from the next group, there has to be 6 feet distancing. But you can have bar seating is allowed. We didn't think that that was going to be permitted, but they did allow that. So you must install physical barriers at your partitions, cash registers, host stands, other areas where it's difficult to achieve that 6 feet distancing. And you should make sure that in your bathrooms, in certain areas that you've designated, proper social distancing, and that you also post a sign on your bathroom that says how many people you're allowed to have in the bathroom safely. So if you have a smaller bathroom, you may only want to have one person or two people at a time. There's no mandate on that, but you should really post how many people so you don't have crowded bathrooms. You must eliminate no buffets or salad bars are permitted. However, and this is for our QSR restaurants, limited self-service drink stations are permitted, but those also should be included in your plan on sanitation and how you're sanitizing the self-service soda stations. Eliminate all amenities and congregate areas such as children's recreational play areas and dance floors, game rooms. Much of what you're doing, consider single-use condiments, menus, reusable napkins, single-use napkins. If you are using linens and napkins, they have to be obviously laundered after each use, which we know you guys are doing that anyway. Obviously provide hand sanitizer. Live performers, for those of you that do have live performances in your restaurants, the live performers must remain at least 10 feet from the patrons and staff. And also do a health check. It says consider, but I strongly encourage you to do that, to consider health checks on live performers or any of your vendors. You're cleaning and disinfecting, which obviously so many of you do due to with our Serve Safe protocols. You're doing that anyway, but you might, obviously they're going to be increased and enhanced. The CDC has specified some guidelines on that. So certainly, you can check the CDC guidelines and we'll have those links available to you. And that should be included in your cleaning and COVID prevention plan. How often you're cleaning highly touched areas, bathrooms, things like that. So that, again, your health inspector can see that you're really on top of all of your sanitation practices. Implement procedures to increase cleaning and disinfecting in the kitchen areas. Again, you guys do that so well. So, that's almost a moot point. That's already part of Serve Safe and what you do. I want to touch on for a little bit here the indoor air and ventilation, which is new. And I know it's created a little bit of anxiety and some concern with some restaurants. So I just want to see if I can explain it as best as possible. You don't have to go out and get a whole new HVAC system. That's not what this is about. But what they want you to do is keep your doors and windows open where possible. Utilize fans to improve ventilation. And have your heating and air conditioning inspected. Considering installing HEPA filters, which I think is a great idea anyway, regardless of COVID, colds, flu. It just makes your air so much cleaner and healthier. So that should be something I think that's done anyway. Conduct routine maintenance by your HVAC, by an HVAC professional. Within the designated specific guidelines of your HVAC, increase the volume of outdoor air to the maximum capacity while the facility is occupied, and reduce the volume of recirculated air being returned to indoor spaces. And I know some of you who don't own your own establishments, you're going to obviously have to work with your landlord, and I certainly would send these requirements to them as well. Increase the volume of air being delivered to indoor spaces to the maximum capacity. Select maximum filtration levels for your HVAC. And they want you to run the HVAC for 2 hours before and 2 hours after the facility is occupied. And then one of the other things, though, is that you'll see that it says windows. So if you have windows, they would like you to keep them open. If it's 30 degrees, we know that that's not practical. I know that I had one restaurant that said their windows were really for show and don't open. If your windows can't open or you don't have windows, that's okay. You don't have to put in new windows. It's just if you have them, they just want you to try and maximize as much fresh air into the restaurant as you can. Employees, obviously, that is very similar to what we have with, sorry, one second. That's very much similar to what you already have with outdoor dining. It is, making sure you do the sanitization that they do, hand washing. Again, it's just the same as outdoor dining. You may want to require, obviously, employees with symptoms of COVID to be sent home. The one thing is if there is a case of COVID that has been reported, that you are to close your restaurant or facility for 24 hours and have it professionally sanitized. And then that should be reported, obviously, to the appropriate authorities, how you've been doing that through OSHA and contact tracers. Again, encouraging reservation systems, but again, all of the customer requirements are the same for outdoor dining. So again, that will be on the website. It's, don't want to have to go over all that again. The one thing that is noteworthy that you should know, and I know a lot of you live in different jurisdictions, and a lot of towns have been trying to implement their own ordinances, and the governor's executive order cannot be preempted by any local ordinance, so that they cannot make it stricter. So for example, we're here in Trenton. Trenton cannot say we only want a 25% occupancy. Or I'm sorry, a 10% occupancy. It's the governor's executive order, and that is the law of the land. So they can't make it more strict, but they also can't make it 50%. So, it goes by the governor's executive order. That said, it will be the local Department of Health who will be overseeing this, and if there's violations, the state police then could be called in. So those are I just want to make sure that there's nothing. I mean, again, I know that the new situation is the air ventilation, making sure you have a cleaning plan and somebody who's going to be responsible. Again, you have to deny entrance into anyone who is not wearing a mask unless their health does not permit them to do so. And very much like, you can't ask them though what their health issue is. So it does put the restaurant somewhat in a precarious position. But please make sure that you do have disposable masks available, because nobody can be inside. They have to be seated. Obviously, when they come into the restaurant, they have to be wearing their mask. When they're seated, wearing their mask. They're encouraged to wear their mask when they're not eating and drinking and just conversing, but it is required if they get up and go to the bathroom, or if, let's say, they are at a bar and they're seated and they want to get up and walk over to another table and talk, they have to put their masks on. Bar seating, and just to get into this a little bit. So if you have wait staff and you offer table service, you are not allowed to allow your guests or patron to go up to the bar and order a drink or an appetizer or their meal. For our quick service restaurants or those that do not have table service, then they can. Obviously, for example, you can go up to, you walk up to McDonald's, you order your meal, and then you take it with you and you go sit down. But if you have table service, patrons are not allowed to go up into the bar and get their drink or to get any kind of food or beverage. And I think that's it. And again, all of these, this will be up on the association website. We will also have like I said, a safety plan that we're working on right now, as many of you I know are struggling to to hire and get your procedures in place, especially for those of you that have not been open. But I don't know, I think there's some questions, so I'm going to go. We
have a few questions.
Yep, I'm going to go to the Q&A. Okay, so with heat still occurring, AC units are not designed for doors open in high humidity. They will freeze up and fail. So how do we handle that? Well, I'm not an HVAC person, so Kurt, I don't really know, to be honest with you. You would have to talk to your HVAC company about that. Again, these are recommendations, not mandates, right? And again, you know, I encourage you to look at the order, and you can work with your HVAC person. The goal is to maximize the circulation of fresh air into your establishment. That's the goal. There's no one way that you're going to be able to do that, because every restaurant, every building is different. I saw someone say buffets. Buffets are not allowed. Buffets are not permitted. Queues as in off-premise catering when going to a venue for a wedding indoors. Call it a VFW hall for simplicity, and we are staffing the event and cooking for their premise. Who is responsible for monitoring the indoor guidelines? I would say whoever's handling the food service and the facility. I think you both have responsibility there. Yours as far as food preparation, your staff, they have it for the physical structure of their building. Is there specific cleaning solution mandated for cleaning tables and chairs? No, but anything that you're using for ServSafe, obviously within those protocols, you know, what you're using already is good. There is, again, a list of, the EPA has a list of disinfectants for use against COVID. It's on the epa.gov/pesticide registration list. So you can go, and there's a whole list of cleaning guidelines.
We have a few more questions that were emailed in, Mary Lou.
Oh, Maggie was linked for a June event. Oh, sorry about that, Maggie. Dance floors. So there's not allowed to have a dance floor. And this is exactly, you know, you can't have a designated dance floor. And that's basically the answer that I got when I asked, was there's no designated dance floors permitted. A list of companies that professionally sanitize if we have a case. Shah, we have some vendors that we're working with. We have a pretty comprehensive list of vendors that have been dealing with, obviously, this COVID situation. So I am sure that on the list of vendors, we have one. Joe Tuzio. Oh, is that the Tuzios in Long Branch? Let's see, do we have to check temperatures when customers enter? No. And you're not even really required to do your staff, but you should be, your staff, you really should be doing it. You should be doing some sort of health check from your employees, but customers, no. You could end up with some privacy issues there. But you should have a sign out there that says that nobody should be coming in who has a sign of a fever. If a guest states that they don't have to wear a mask due to a health reason, are we required to ask them for documentation? No, you're not allowed to. It's the ADA compliant violation to ask anybody what they're, you know, very similar to, for example, if someone has you know, I'm trying to think of the example I'm trying to use. For example, if someone comes into your restaurant with a dog and says that they are a, you know, CNI dog, which would obviously be obvious, but, you know, some sort of, not emotional support, but I'm thinking of the word, dog but you can't ask them what their illness is. What the function that they provide, but you can't ask what the illness is. So long-winded, confusing answer to that is no, you can't ask them. Will code checks be permitted? There's nothing against that, so I'm assuming that's fine. Justin, yeah, I think that's okay. Bob, if there's a COVID case from an employee from an off-site event, do we have to notify and close? You would have to close if that person had worked in the establishment when they were, if it was after their exposure. Can people play darts in the bar? I don't know, but I can certainly ask. That's a good one. Darts, pool, I don't think so, because it did say here that you needed to close off, eliminate all amenities, congregated areas such as children's recreational play areas, dance floor, and game rooms that encourage close person-to-person interaction. So I'm assuming based on that would be a no, but we can find Are, are we allowed to seat at the bar? I got online late. Yes, you can sit at a bar, only 4 people in a party. So you can have a maximum of 4 people together, and then there has to be 6 feet apart from the next group. Can you do past hors d'oeuvres? I think you can. It just says no buffets and salad bars. I would not allow the person, though, to be touching anyone else to touch the food. I would just make sure that it's a server that's handed it to them. I wouldn't allow the, I don't think you should be letting somebody touch a tray. I heard mutterings about moving to 50% shortly after 25. Has there been any indication in the next phase? No, I have not, but certainly we hope so, because we know that the weather is getting cooler pretty quickly now. So I think that they're certainly going to wait for a 14-day window to see if there's been any increase. But certainly that's something that myself and the rest of the team here has been pushing for, and we will continue to do so. We would love to get to 50% by the end of September. For people seated at the bar, must there be plexiglass divided between them and the bartender? No, but I mean, it's a good idea, but you should, I know that some people have had their bartenders more or less in shields, but if there's enough distancing between the guests and the bartender, then you're okay. Oh, shoot, I just lost. Can we play darts? Hold on, I'm sorry. These questions are coming in pretty quickly. Contact tracing, is it mandatory that you have to subscribe for a service that monitors our space and visitors? No. Oh, hi, Sharon. I heard your answer. Thank you. I'm sorry, I just lost my place here because he's, hold on, I'm going to start at the top shot. They're coming in quick.
I apologize. I'm deleting as you answered. That's why they're going away.
Oh, okay. Small events allowed in party rooms, 25 or venues. Small events allowed in party rooms, 25% rooms for venues allowed. I'm sorry, Patrick, I don't understand your question. If you want to give the office a call, we can talk offline about that. Let me just go down. Sorry, give me one moment.
Well, we have some behind the scene questions that need to be answered from Birchwood Manor. You answered the buffet question.
Let me just finish these, okay?
Okay.
Scott from Echo Lab. Okay, can you speak to if and how cocktail hours can be done as well as beverage service in a wedding setting? So whoever the anonymous attendee is, that's obviously like probably a really long, comprehensive. I would ask you to just call the office and you and I can speak about that because it varies. We have a venue group that meets once a week, and certainly we can add you into that group if you would like, because that is a whole other kind of conversation and probably presentation, which, to be honest with you, is probably a good idea for us to maybe have something on that. Can a guest buy a drink inside bar and take it outside for dining? A guest has to, you can't have guests walking up inside a bar. It has to be, if you have table service, that's the only way that they can get food or beverage. Now, if you don't offer table service and it's just a bar, yes, they can go outside. They can go inside and then take it outside. But if you offer table service, you're not allowed to have people go up to a bar and get their food or beverage. It has to be provided by a staff member. Have read that cooks cooking at the stove don't have to wear a mask. That's correct. Your back of house do not have to have masks. Okay, Rick, thank you. Germnix does a great job at fair pricing professional disinfecting services. So bar seating, again, I think I answered that one. 4 people only. Should we be taking temperatures for guests at weddings or just restaurants? No, you don't have to take temperatures for any guests, whether at a venue or a restaurant. Nope, the physical, I answered that one. Cocktail hour stations, again, anonymous, I'll just ask you to call the office. If your AC system is the type that brings in fresh air, must you have the windows open? Again, it depends. I'm assuming that obviously if you're a return and you're bringing in more fresh air and expelling it, then you should be fine. Looks like closure requirements only apply to indoor operations, not outdoor. Correct. To have to close if a staff member had COVID. I don't know why you have to close. It's what the governor says you have to do it 24 hours and have it cleaned. No, Nancy, you don't have to have your other employees tested. If you have a case, you just have to close. I would encourage them to get tested, obviously, but you're not required to do so. Chris,
Lou,
yes.
I can allow Patrick to ask his question.
I'm sorry?
If Patrick wants to ask his question, he can talk.
Okay.
I can give him permission to talk.
No, well, that's okay. Let me just go through these really quick though.
Okay.
Christy, I'm not sure I think you have some typos. I'm not sure what your question is. Can bar patrons just drink? Yes. As long as you're complying with the social distancing and the maximum of 4 people per party. ADA compliance, if a server that has pulmonary conditions, are they permitted not to wear PPE while working? Obviously, yes. If there is a health reason, that's what it says in all of these, in I think every health and safety standard for every industry, that they have to wear a mask unless they have a health condition that would not allow them to do so. Is the capacity 25% of each room or 25% of the indoor capacity of the restaurant? It's 25% of the whole restaurant. No hors d'oeuvres because you can only at your, I don't understand that one. Okay. How should we handle areas where staff may need to congregate? Should we restrict the number of staff in those areas? Yeah, Gina, I mean, I think you really do. I think that's it. And understand that you're going to have health departments coming in. And if we want to get to this 50%, I think everyone needs to really try to be doing the best that they can and making sure we keep our staff as best as you can. Obviously, I know that your service bar areas are small and, it's going to get crowded and it gets, you're busy. So, certainly just try the best that you can. Are face shields acceptable face coverings? Yes. UV disinfectant has been widely used in New York. Are you recommending this for business owners? To be honest with you, Hunter, I'm not as familiar with that. I would go with what the CDC says on that. I'm not a cleaning expert. I know that we can help you reach out to obviously the CDC and the EPA, as well as Ecolab, who is a big partner of the association, and they can certainly help you with cleaning recommendations and guidelines. People have to order food at the bar. Well, they don't have to order food at the bar, but if they have to order and be served. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Shaw just corrected me. Face shields with cloth covering. So I guess that the face shield, you also have to have a cloth covering. Thank you, Shaw. What are the rules on self-service soda? You can still have self-service, no buffets, but you can have self-service soda, but those should be cleaned regularly and should be included in your cleaning plan of how often you're cleaning your self-service soda stations. Is valet parking allowed? Yes. All right, Sharon, we'll add you to the wedding group. Do your food runners have to wear masks? Yes, if they're customer facing, they should, yes. Who does a great job sanitizing? It's back up there. I'll get you that, Marilyn. Can bar customers just have cocktails, no food? Yes. They can just drink. Are you sure back of house doesn't have to wear a mask? We were told by our Delaware locations. Well, yeah, Delaware is different. We actually, this was a huge issue with us going back and forth back in June, because we know that our chefs and the people in the back of house, those kitchens get very hot and it's very unsafe. So, and also if they're wearing glasses and their masks, they can't see if they're using knives. So we went back and forth with the Department of Health. Just like gloves for front of house are not required. It's actually more unsanitary to have gloves for front of house rather than washing your hands. Right, Fred, yep, nope, the stories, yes, you do not have, back of house restaurants do not have to wear masks. And if your local Department of Health is giving you a hard time, tell them to call the health department, the state health department. Yeah, I answered that one about food. Yep, you can just drink. Can we resume outdoor smoking when it was previously allowed?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Thank you. Confirming, we can see people 6 feet up to party of 4. Yep, Tom, that's right. Can we refuse service to a guest who refuses a temperature check if that's the restaurant policy, or is that another matter of HIPAA? No, I mean, if that's your policy, the restaurant policy, you can, because as you know, if you go to the doctor's office or somewhere else, you're always getting your temperature taken. So if your restaurant chooses to have that policy, then yes, you can. That's up to you, that's your discretion. Booths can be separated closer than 6 feet apart if they are completely separate. I'm not sure what you mean by that, Tom, but you would actually have that plexiglass and physical barrier between anything to be closer than 6 feet apart. I was saying you cannot pass any hors d'oeuvres because no walking around eating. Right, but you can, the staff member can walk around and do past hors d'oeuvres, but the person has to be seated at the table. So you still can do that, but the person would have to be seated. They're doing pliables now in other companies. Okay, I'm not sure what that is. Tim, I see no mention of mandatory closure with positive test in the executive order. Can you show me where that is? It's actually in the health and safety standards. It is, let's see. Shaw, can you look for that while I move on to the questions? Where the restaurant has
yes, and I'll post a link to the health and safety standards in the chat in a few seconds.
Yeah, I'm trying to, yeah, it is in there. Yeah, it was 24 hours. We'll get that for you, Tim. Can a host wear a face shield instead of plexiglass barrier being installed? Yeah, I would assume if you're doing the same thing, but they would also have to have, according to what we just found out, the cloth would also have to be a face shield and a cloth mask. How should staff meals be handled? Well, I would not allow them, honestly, and I know we've had some other some people on this call where have had an issue where the staff was eating all together and they thought somebody was sick. So I would make sure that they were very well separated, that they're individually wrapped and they're seating apart. We have 4 wedding properties. Can we be added to the wedding group? Yeah, just please email us your contact information, your email and your name. Do bartenders have to wear gloves? No. Anonymous, Shaw's going to find the EO where you have to close for a day. I know I saw it, so I'm not making it up. 24 hours it is. Customers, let me see if I can. Shaw's gonna find, let me just go through the rest. Wedding question. Can cocktail hour take place with wait staff serving the food, and plexiglass barriers. So you can have cocktail hour, and they can serve the food. I don't know if you mean a buffet or not. I mean, you can do past hors d'oeuvres, but people have to be seated. So again, that's maybe more of a wedding question. So Stacy, if you want to call the office, we can talk through that. To monitor sanitation. Contractors. Can we hire on outside contractors to monitor the sanitation process that needs to be documented on a day shift to shift change? I mean, yeah, as long as they're adhering to the guidelines. Yes, valet parking is allowed, Liz. Once a guest sits, do they need to be wearing a mask unless they are physically eating or drinking? They don't have to, right? They can take their mask off. They're encouraged to keep their mask on as much as possible, but they have to, if they get up from their seat, they have to.
Okay.
The maximum count per table is still 8 unless it's from an immediate family or household. The booths will be separated by masonite boards back to back. Is that okay then? Yeah, that's a good question, Tom. I don't know. I can look into that for you. I think it's okay, but I don't want to say 100% yes. For wedding and banquet venues is the 150 cap per room. Yep, Diane, it is. Do the indoor dining guests have to wear their masks when they're seated until the food arrives and put them back on when they're done eating? Yeah, I mean, when they're sitting down, obviously, you know, they can take them off. The EO says that they're encouraged to keep them on as much as possible. So if they stop eating, they should put them back on. I know the reality that's challenging because when you're sitting, you're considered, you know, you're drinking, you're sipping on your water, you know, so to take a mask on and off is challenging. But, you know, the whole thing is just to wear it as much as, to encourage your guests to wear it as much as possible. And certainly when they get up from the table. Cash transactions are allowed, of course. I mean, discourage, that's going to be up to you. There's a law in New Jersey that you cannot discriminate against cash paying customers. So revisiting wedding banquet, you mentioned guests need to be seated. Does the server refuse the guests until they are seated? Yeah, I mean, you really need to, I know it's hard at a wedding and banquet, and that's, you know, it's going to be so difficult. So again, but they are supposed to be seated while they're eating and drinking.
Excuse me, Mary Lou?
Yeah.
I found the information for the individual that wanted to know about having to close for 24 hours.
Yeah.
I posted in the chat the protocols from the Department of Health. It's in the middle of page 3. It says, in the event of a presumptive or actual positive COVID-19 case of a worker, patron, or vendor, the restaurant must be immediately shut down for 24 hours and then must be cleaned and disinfected in accordance with the current CDC guidance before reopening. Again, that information, the link is in our chat, and it's also on our website on our COVID-19 resource page. Thank you very much, Bob, for sending that over to me.
Yeah, and it's in here. This is the Department of Health Safety Standard, which we'll have up on the website. Okay, let's go back to the questions. Oh, good Lord, there's a lot of them. Are guests required to wear masks when ordering with the server or bartender? No, if they're sitting down, they can take their masks off. Can we push back on the closure mandate? Seems crazy. I mean, you know, it's something I can address. What we're doing is after this, I'm taking all your questions, and obviously I have some myself that I'm already going to send over to the governor's office. Some things that kind of don't make sense. I think some of them were addressed here that either we want to push back on or we want clarity on. So, you know, certainly we will continue to update, you know, through you. We do. I mean, hopefully you're all members of the association. And obviously anyone who is looking to be part of the wedding or banquet group, I mean, those are for the association members. Okay, so what specific guidelines do you suggest restaurants require or encourage patrons to follow? So obviously, I mean, wearing their masks when they come in, not yelling at the host or the hostess when they tell them they have to wear a mask. You know, not coming in, and you might want to post this too at the front of your restaurant, not coming in if they're not feeling well. Making sure that they wear their mask when there's, you know, they get up and go to the bathroom, or, you know, unless they're eating or drinking. And tip well. Those are the guidelines I would suggest. Are we allowed to use glasses without dishwashing machines? And we use 3-part bar sink for the sanitation of glasses. Paul, I'm not a sanitation expert. There's nothing in here that says anything about that. So again, you know, I think that goes back to almost like ServSafe and sanitation, you know, so that I really can't answer that.
As long as they're cleaning and sanitizing the glasses properly, according to ServSafe and the Department of Health, they should be fine.
We all understand 6 feet apart, but how is a 25% occupancy calculated? 25% of your fire code. So if you're allowed 100 people, you can have 25 people. Again, it does not include your staff. Scott from Ecolab says they can use a bar 3 comp sink. You might want to follow up with Scott from Ecolab. And again, he's our, you know, our preferred vendor here with the association. Are gloves required for staff? Back of house, yes, Louise. Front of house, no. Now I'm going to go, there's some other questions in the chat. I'm sorry, Sha, I don't see the other questions.
I apologize. Those questions were emailed in. Okay, one second. You may have answered some of them. You just need to drive home that there's 150 people cap per room for the venues.
For the venues, it's 150. Yes. For the restaurant, it's separate, which is, to me, you know, we're kind of pushing back on that. But the restaurant's different than wedding and banquets. So for the restaurant, it's 25% of the whole building. For wedding and banquets, it's the room. Tom, will the state be checking the staff? Yes, they will, for clean underwear. I'm glad someone's got some humor here. It's been a long haul, and again, you know, I know that this is so trying, and you know, we're just trying to get the information out to you as quickly as we can. You know, our priority obviously is to get you to 50 and then 75%, and also to really make sure that if there is a spike in COVID, that it is not attributed to restaurants automatically, which seems to always be the case. In other states, I have, the contact tracers have reported to the Department of Health a list of industries of where they are seeing a spike in COVID cases come from: food processing plants and manufacturing. And it's you know, not coming from restaurants. That's 8 or 9 down on the list. And we need to really make sure that there's transparency, that if there is a spike, that we get that information. And it's just, you know, we are not going to be, you know, blamed for something that is not what we're doing. So, you know, and the governor did say that they're really going to try and make sure the contact tracers are looking. Are they, you know, schools are opening. You know, we know gyms are open, theaters are opening alongside with us. So there is a lot opening, and there naturally could be a spike, but we just can't have it all blamed on restaurants. So anyway, well, I think that's, you know, pretty much it. Again, the association number is 609-599-3316. Any of us can answer your questions, you know, or email. You go to our website, all of our emails are on there. And just thank you all very much for, you know, coming on to the Zoom meeting. we'll probably be doing another one of these in a few weeks. And again, I think because some of your questions are very specific to wedding and banquets, we'll probably look to do something, specific for you guys as well. So thank you all.